Welcome to Making Room, a podcast inspiring people to accelerate change by being a catalyst, honoring creativity, and acting with courage. We are making room for the greatest potential of our community.
Welcome, you are welcome here. Welcome to this open door, dear. Our hands are reaching out for you. The floor is clear and we've made room for you.
All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening to this. We are so excited on the Making Room podcast today to have Efuru Cole Brewer, a great friend, partner. Gosh, I don't know how all the ways to describe our relationship. She is an extraordinary person. We're going to really focus today on this idea of being a catalyst and what she has done in the community. And that word's going to mean something different for you by the time you listen to this podcast today. She's 17, going on 55 probably.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Meaning that she's wise beyond her years.
That's right.
Their nickname is Efuru the Guru because of just how committed to growth she is. We're so excited to share. She's going to be studying communications and digital design at the IE University in Madrid, where she's already invited us to lunch, to fly us out there.
Yeah.
So she's been a difference maker. You know, the most important thing I know about her is she's a voice, and she has a powerful voice, and y'all are getting ready to be blown away by Efuru. And, you know, Brandon, we had the privilege of being in D.C. and got to meet her at the same time, right?
That's right. So we were in D.C. for this, what we were calling Difference Makers trip, where we took 18 community leaders and paired them with 18 students, and we all went to D.C. And I remember one of the things on our agenda was going to the Smithsonian African American Museum of History and Culture. And I remember I was asked to set up the context before we went in. And I had been there before, so I sort of talked about, you know, this is what you're going to see as you go through, and the expectation that I could be taking my great-grandchildren there one day and seeing what Efuru made happen for them, right? And so we went through that, and then when we came out, Efuru, you and John did a recap, and I remember it being in the park, and I was just blown away. I was like, I'll tuck my speech back in. I thought I was doing something, and you just blew it away. So tell me a little bit about how that came about and, like, that moment for you where you're standing in front of all these leaders and really just, you know.
Well, like, especially because this episode is all about being a catalyst, like, John is, like, the first example of that for me, like the first intentional example, because obviously there's people in my life where they were catalysts for me to grow, but I didn't know it. And so there's a different kind of energy on it when someone is intentional about what they do and they let you know their intentions. And so I remember he was like, hey, I'm supposed to like regroup and this, that, and the third, but he was just like, you know what, I feel like it'll be better coming from you, and I know that you're ready for it, you're prepared for it, and that you'll put a different energy on it that'll, like, you know, basically set the recap on fire. Right. And I was just like, okay, nervous, shaking in my boots.
Yeah, I was going to ask, were you nervous? You had to be nervous, right?
Yeah, because I hadn't met you guys. Like, it was all these adults around Charlotte that I heard do music, do their lawyers and stuff. I was like, oh, my God, they done did their stuff. And it's just like being able to be put in that position where, like, someone trusted me to deliver, that's everything. Because he believed that I could deliver, I did. So
That's incredible.
That is.
I have a question for you, John, actually.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you just met her, right? So what is it that you saw in Efuru in that moment that you were like, yeah, I trust this person. I don't know her, but I trust her.
You know, that trip was a big catalyst for me too, because I remember the first time we were on the bus tour. And so the first thing we did was we were going around DC and we just started talking about leadership. That's back when I was at the center. And I just remember, like, after one conversation, like, this is like, we're like the same person, right? We care about, like, the world, we care about humanity, and then just seeing your capabilities also in the hope. And I think also what it was, Shivani, is, you know, and I love the definition you've shared with us before, is when we came out of the museum, it was a very emotional experience. And I had just come out from the last thing you see is the Emmett Till Memorial. And I was present to the decision Emmett Till's mom made to do an open casket and to really raise awareness in a deeply personal way to how horrific the injustices continue to be, and to spark Rosa Parks and many other civil rights leaders to act. And I walked up the stairs that morning, and I ran into Ernest Winston, our current CMS superintendent. And we had saw that together, and I remember we just looked in each other's eyes, and it was 2 weeks earlier where he had received threats on his life because he's a black man and he was our first black superintendent, and we just hugged. We embraced, and I remember Ernest saying, I'll be okay, but I'm just afraid sometimes for my daughters. And it was the most human moment. So, Shivani, walking out, I was heavy. And then I looked at Efuru and her peers as our young people, and like they saw it, they processed it, but that heaviness wasn't there. And I think one of the things our group needed in that moment was hope. And so I realized in that moment, which was very transformative for me, because I had been trained my whole career, that you got to be in front, right? You got to, oh, wow, there's 18 community leaders. This is a chance for people to get to know me more. But I realized what the group needed was Efuru's voice. And they needed that hope. And they needed, and also for her, what it changed in me is that we say this a lot, but sometimes people just need room, right? Like someone that just to go up and like see, we talk about potential, that's one thing, but like for someone to like feel it,
Right,
Absolutely.
right. Yeah, I think that's spot on. I think that a lot of times as a leader, you feel like you have to be up front, but really it's putting people in the position where they can be successful. And sometimes it's making room for someone who can carry that load when you can't. Like John, when you were heavy,
sure,
when it's
yeah.
heavy on you. And so I think about that in the context. I was teaching my son like how to swim, and he was fighting the water. I mean, he was punching it, kicking it. Like he's my head to say he's fighting the water. And I was like, bud, just relax. Just relax. And he just relaxed and realized, oh, I can just float because I have this support on me, right? And when he did that and kind of took a step back, he got it, right? And so I think that's a lot that people look. I'm going to go to us. We've been called old before, so I guess we're old. Us old people need
Seasoned.
I'm not old, guys.
Seasoned. And so I'm just, I know you touched on it, but just curious, like
Yeah.
what it means for someone like John to give that platform to you and just make room for that. And have you seen it in other places where it just empowers you?
Yeah, so actually, my favorite part about John on that trip, like when I first met him, was the fact that he reminded me a lot of my mom. It was actually super crazy because he was just kind of like he said, because he was feeling everything that he was feeling and understanding that I can hold the weight when he can't. It was like, oh my God, go do this, go do this, go do this. And it's just like pushing me and encouraging me and letting me know that I can do it. And it's like, yeah, you hear that a lot. It's like, oh, people talk to you and they're like, oh, you have so much potential and this, that. But like you said, actually feeling the potential and then actually like understanding that I have that potential and that potential energy can turn to kinetic really quickly as long as I act on it. Right. And so that was like everything for me because I saw it in John, but I saw it in my mom. So I'm seeing it in my like first-hand support group. Like they're here for me, supporting me, pushing me to do this, and just like even when I don't think I'm ready, you're ready.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm a type of person that loves to like cut it short.
Right.
Like
don't cut our interview short.
Right. No. Like I like to get straight to the point. You know what I'm saying? And it's just kind of like and cut out all the unnecessary. And so like someone like John or my mom or like just these people that believe in me, it's like they're gonna when I'm like, oh, I'm doubting, oh, I don't know, let's just cut that out. Yeah. I don't know where you're getting that from. It doesn't even make sense. Be quiet and get up there. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. And for me, that's everything because it's like, yeah, you believe in me and this, that, and the third, but you also believe in yourself to make that decision. That's everything. That's like
that's right.
To see them, like I said, like to see them believe in themselves, then in turn believe in me, it allows me to understand that, look, if they trust themselves, then I trust me too.
Like that.
Well, and that it strikes me how, you're 17 and we just saw this past weekend, Phil Mickelson, for anyone who's interested in golf, who's 50, and I watched an interview last night, and they said, what are you taking away from this? He said, I can continue to win if I work hard and I got people around me that believe in me. And I was struck by, we tend, like, yes, young people, but that matters at any age.
That's right.
That you got people around you that believe in you, and I think we've done that for each other, right? You believed in me, and even this work. Right, we'll fast forward a couple months ago, we get a new engagement with Charlotte Works,
Right.
and leading workforce development organization. And I remember talking to the COO there that, hey, the way I kind of work now is we want to have some different voices involved in this, and that's part of the process. And they were totally bought in. And then we talk about, okay, we got an hour prep call, and I'm going to set context, but 45 minutes of the hour is all yours. And I'd love to hear what happened. What was that like for you, and what did you learn about yourself that day?
Well, so my brain works at like 300 miles per hour. That's number one. So I have to like backtrack, but at the same time, like the feeling is always there. And I remember when I got on it, like 45 minutes for me, because, okay, so a little bit about like my public speaking background. I actually did Toastmasters. So like going through that Toastmasters training and then having to do prompts on the spot, but then having to meet like time requirements and like going against other people, that kind of like taught me that 20-minute speeches are not that long. Like,
Right.
we have once you learn how to say what your life is, it's hard to, like, start to condense it.
That's right.
And then in a space where, like you said, making room for other people. So to make room for other people in that 45 minutes while also putting in, adding your value, that's, like, actually really tricky, like, to put it all together. And I remember when I got on, I was nervous. But, I mean, like I said, I had John there, and then the team is just so amazing. It's just, like, they say it takes a village.
Yep.
That's really how I felt when I got on that call, and it was just, like, getting on it, I didn't know what I was going to say necessarily. We had a prep call and all of this, but I didn't know what I was going to say. But I believed that I had it in me to say what I needed to say what was needed to be said, and then to understand people for what it is they were saying and not, like, how it made me feel. And so I remember getting on that call and them just, like, talking to each other and speaking and this, that, and the third, and just, like, connecting with each other, and then remembering why I was here on this call in the first place.
Right.
It was just like, dude, like, I don't know if it was the team that just made it so much easier and fulfilling, but it really was. Like, I got on there and they were just kind of like we prompted them to speak to each other in a certain way, but it was just like the fire between each other. It just like, when you light a fire, there's flames that come off. Right. And it would just come to me and just fill me up like, oh my God, yes, and then hit it.
Yeah.
And then I don't know exactly what John is talking about, like, you just have to guide me a little bit more on that.
Yeah.
But like what he's talking about as far as like the growth, but I remember getting off the call and calling John like, yo, that was amazing. Like, what? Right. I want to do this. Like, and then believing like, so the biggest thing about it was like, I'm 17 and I'm on a call with all these people that not only are doing what it is I want to do, they have, gone to school for it. They have gone through trials and tribulations. They have had the focus for it. And it's just like, wow, like, and still in this space, I add value.
Yeah.
So that was everything. And I called John like immediately after, and I was like, oh my God, that was so great. Like, can I continuously do this?
That's incredible. The fact that you also did that over the phone, right? Like, there's something to being in person and being able to like have those dynamic conversations, but you were able to navigate that and hear other people's voices and their intent that you spoke to.
Yeah,
that's incredible, Efuru.
Thank you.
Really
Yeah,
I agree. And what you said about being who you were or who you are and still adding value even at 17, I feel like you are ahead of, maybe you are going on 55. We're going to need to check the birth certificate.
Where's the ID? Let's check
we need
that
ID.
out.
Maybe ID. But I feel like there's a lot of people who struggle with that, even like at our age, of being their authentic self and going into a room like that and being able to, hey, I'm valuable. I bring a valuable perspective. Even though I may not look like everyone in this room, I may be different from everyone in this room, and that's what the value is. I'm curious, so it sounds like you're very purpose-driven, right? Like, I think you got to be at this point 17, and you already know kind of stuff you want to do. So maybe just talk about, like, where do you feel like, and maybe in the context of being a catalyst, do you feel that, and where did that come from?
Okay, so let's just take a roll back through the past, you know?
Okay.
And I want to go to where it all started. And there's like no direction in this. It just started. So when I was younger, I was diagnosed with stage 4 Wilms tumor, right?
Oh, wow.
So for the first 3, maybe 4 years of my life, I was in the hospital. I didn't go anywhere at all. Like, I didn't go, like, I remember my family's really big.
Yeah.
And everyone would go to my grandma's house. And it was just like, my grandma's house. And I could never go because I was always in the hospital around doctors and other sick people. And it was just like, it was tough for me, right?
Yeah.
And so just that alone, like, my upbringing being so tough, but also being so positive as I was. And then growing up from that, and then going into remission, and then going into the school system, going to my grandma's house, doing this, that, and the third, it was just like, okay, I'm living life, I'm experiencing life. And then I remember I was in, what grade are you in when you're 11? Like 6th grade, maybe? Yeah,
Actually,
6th grade.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
So I was in 6th grade, and I remember, like, I'm going to this big middle school. Like, I went to Piedmont Open Ivy Middle School. So
Okay,
this is
yeah.
big.
Yeah.
It's like 300 kids in one grade, and we're split up. So it's just like I'm trying to find myself in this big crowd.
Right.
I don't do this. Like, my elementary school was small. Like I said, my childhood was small. And so I remember one day I was just sitting in, like, standing in my living room, and I was just like, I just started crying. So I'm a very spiritual person, right? And we light ancestor incense every day.
Okay.
And I lit my incense, and I was putting it in the rice. And I don't know what it was, just like spirit came over me. I just started crying. And I'm like, oh my God, why are you crying? Because I'm actually, like, growing up, I was actually, like, because so much sensitive stuff was happening, I was kind of desensitized.
Right.
So I didn't cry a lot growing up. So I was just like, oh my God, ew, why are you crying? But I just started crying, and I thought about it, and I was like, dude, like, stage 4, and everyone in that hospital that had my cancer passed away was stage 3, stage 2. I was like, oh, you're not here for nothing.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
you're not here for nothing. Like, and I have to understand that I was given a second chance. Like, whatever you believe in, karma, God, universe, spirit, source, it doesn't matter. I was given a second chance to live the life that I'm living the way that I started it. And so that, for me, meant, like, everything. And I'm like, I'm sitting here crying. I'm like, dude, I don't care what I do, but I know I'm going to be great in it. And so from that moment on, it was kind of like recognize the power in my voice and in my experience and how my life is tailored for me. You know, that sounds crazy to say, but my life is literally tailored for me, and it's tailored for the people that I'm around and the people that I impact. And it was just like getting older and having more experiences. And, you know, older people, they say, just keep living.
Yeah. Right.
I think that's going to be my favorite catchphrase. You know, just keep living.
Yeah.
But as I, like,
That is a
kept
50
living,
plus saying, by the way.
Again, check the ID.
right?
Yeah.
And, like, as I kept living, it's just opportunities started to come to me, and emotions started to come out of me. Like, I've been an advocate for so many things throughout my youth, and it's just like, at 17, it's like, yeah, I'm 17, but it's like, dang, what have I been through? And, like, what do I continuously go through? Because I'm not, okay, so I'm 17, I'm a black female, and I live in America as a black female. Okay, and I'm not rich. All right. Like, that's a lot. And so I'm sitting here in these school systems like Piedmont Open IB, which has, like, great resources, great money, great teachers, so-called. But it's like, even in those great spaces, because I love Piedmont, but even in those great spaces, as a black female in America that's also not rich, I'm still going to be put at a disadvantage regardless. Just because I'm walking the same halls as these resources, that does not mean I'm that doesn't mean that people find me any more capable. And so I remember, like, just throughout my years throughout school, like, I've been told so many times, oh, you'll be the smart person's friend, you'll never be nothing, and basically, oh, I'm gonna be that loud girl down, because I am loud. I'm loquacious. my aunt taught me that word. Shout out.
Another plus 50. Not if you're a Efuru, though. That's like age 11.
Yes.
It's like-
And
it's
so,
like-
like,
She was one of her, like,
Yeah, I guess so.
Brewer house.
early reading words.
But yeah,
Right,
and
right.
I am a loud and boisterous person, and just like them telling me, oh, like I talk too much and I just do too much, and this, and not being accepted for being me, and continuously told over and over again, you'll be nothing, you'll be nothing. By the age of 17, so many people didn't tell me that, and I've proven so many people wrong. It's just like, duh, I'm gonna be great. Like, why
You're
wouldn't
gonna
I be?
continue to prove
Like-
people wrong, right?
Like, why
Yeah.
wouldn't I be? And it's like, I can't take that away from them saying that to me. Like, I would never take back any experience I've ever had of anybody saying, Efuru, you won't be nothing. Great. I'm so glad you said that.
Like fueled your fire.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yes.
saying.
I hear your story, and there's so much strength, even in those years where you were going through treatment for Wilms tumor. And that certainly speaks to me. I remember doing hem-onc floors in my residency, and it was awful. Like, I just didn't enjoy being in that space. But, and my own brother actually had his own story as well. He's doing great now. But the fact that there's something about building strength in that space, right? Like, even being tough and not crying through all the needles and all the pokes and all of that. We expect that of kids because they have to deal with it. But we also understand that that's not necessary, right? Like, you can be their supports. And when you hit 11, your story could have been completely different, right? So many kids are. There's something inside of you, your strength that you garnered even as a young child, having to kind of be out there on your own and taking leaps of faith where other children were leaping over, piles of dirt. You were leaping over huge
Right.
monumental things. And that certainly brings to your story, but it's not the only piece of it either.
Yeah. And you know what? Actually, when John told me you were a pediatrician, it actually like warmed my heart because at like I said, the first 4 years of my life was nothing but in the hospital.
That's a lot of us.
And when I tell you the nurses and doctors made that, like, I remember, like, so this is actually so funny. Going back to the catalyst, okay? Going back to that.
We're just gonna hand you the microphone.
Thinking about that, it's just like, okay, so I'm like 1.5 years old going in here, right? And I remember, like, I was the kid that didn't cry getting my blood drawn and was just like, okay, I mean, they're going to do it. And I remember my doctors would go, like, to my room and pull me out to help the older kids.
Oh, gosh.
They'd be like, oh, come on, come hold such and such hand. They're freaking out about the needles. And I would, like, she made room for me. She was like, come on, like, we need you. And I was just like, okay, let's go.
You were the child life specialist in the movie, right?
Right, and it was just like I said, going back to the catalyst, it's like she made room for me to be me and for me to continuously practice being such a positive young lady. And it's just like, even though I'm just now realizing this, like, that meant everything. And that's why, like, pediatricians, like, they just bring, like, so much, like, glow to my heart, because the way that you treat children is everything. Because we remember that even when we don't know we remember it. Like, I'm just now bringing the two facts that, dang, they did make room for me when I was younger. Just now, right now, in this conversation. Yeah. But she did that, what, like 14 years ago? Mm-hmm. So it's just like, I don't know. That really touched my heart.
Yeah, but it is, and that strength, I think that's where so much of the impact you've had on me personally, and with all the things that you've done, when you are, what I'm struck with, when you're walking in your purpose, and you're so full of just, being loud and life and spirit, that brings that alive in other people. And it has continued in the 2 years I've known you, brought that alive in me. And it wasn't till last Friday that I realized it was 9 years ago when I said I wanted to start a leadership program for young people. And I wasn't ready yet, though. I wasn't prepared yet for that calling and assignment. And because 9 years ago, I would have been coming from, there's something as a leader I need to impart. And the shift that happened 2 years ago that you created in me is that there's nothing I need to impart. There's just space that needs to happen. There's voices that need to be elevated. And those of us in power, those of us with resources, can create those conditions for voices closest to the things we're trying to solve, voices with the most hope to elevate. And I've watched that time and time again. When we had our Difference Makers reunion, adults speak and people slump, and then y'all get on the mic, and people are looking intently, and that struck a chord with me. Even when we were at the museum, is that movements have been led by young people, and I want something else that should be on the loudspeaker. I'm going to read this quote because I've read it about 10 times in the last day. This is from Efuru. When asked to share about her goals and dreams for the future. My goals and dreams are simple. My goal is to shift the global focus to human evolution through love. My dream is that people will recognize their own greatness and start listening to understand others. We want to pin symptoms on the root cause. The root cause is self-unawareness. Will you talk more about the importance of those words?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to say my favorite part about being how old I am at this time is the fact that I have not been conditioned the way that adults have been conditioned.
Yeah.
And that's like, oh my God, I learned that so early because so many adults told me, oh girl, you dreaming too big. Or, that's like adults' favorite thing. Oh, come on, let's what is it? What do adults say? I know y'all know what adults say. They'd be like,
You stay
the reality.
Tone it down.
Yeah.
Let's get back to reality.
Well, right, let's get back to reality.
Baby steps.
What? Reality
That
is what you
sounds
make
good,
it.
but
Right,
yeah.
that sounds good. And it's just like, don't tell me to get back to reality because what you really want me to do is get back to your reality.
Mm-hmm.
Our realities are different. Like, reality is what you make it. And it's just like, my favorite thing is that I am so hopeful and that I am a child and I have not been conditioned. And I learned that very early that you can learn throughout your life and you can adjust. But if you let anything or any amount of experiences take away your magic, that's where you've lost. And I don't ever want to lose in that way, ever. And that's why when anybody asks me anything, I always say, yo, let's go back to the simples. Like, the best way for me to explain it to you is in elementary terms, because do you really understand the words that you're saying if you cannot explain it in simple terms? And that's like, I don't know who said that quote, but that quote stuck with me forever. And it's just like, you ask me what I want to do in the world, and I'm going to tell you love, I'm going to tell you peace, and I'm going to tell you community. Every single time. Now, it might sound different the older I get because I understand how to project that differently, but it's going to be the same thing every time. And that's because these things never change. Why are these words so old? Why have these things been practiced since before these words were created? It's because the energy is here. The energy has always been here, and the energy will be here when we're not here. And so I've just noticed, like, just watching society, it's like, and this is the society portion of everything. It's like you're focused on the wrong thing.
Right.
And focus is everything. Because focus creates movements. Focus builds buildings. You guys have focus to be a lawyer and a pediatrician. You know what I'm saying? Focus is everything. And it's just like to change the world, you'll never change the world with the word like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Okay?
Yeah.
You'll never change the world like that. But you will change the world by relating and understanding to other people. So my biggest thing is self-awareness, right? And the Efuru Guru thing came from just basically like he said earlier, like me being dedicated to growth, because at first I didn't want to call myself Efuru Guru. And I remember like that was the first thing. Like, I don't know who it was, but it was somebody in my life, and they was like, "Oh, Efuru the Guru," and I was like, "Oh my God, that sounds so cool." And then I was like, "Oh my God, like, what if I'm not a guru?" Like, and then I like start thinking about what a guru is. I'm like, "Oh, I'm not an expert in anything." Da, 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 da. But then, like, I remember bringing it to like my classmates or something like that. I don't know what it was, but I was like, I'm a little cocky. You know what I'm saying? I have not cocky. Confident. I'm very confident. And so, like, in crowds, like, we all joke around. We're kids. And I'm like, yeah, I'm Efuru the Guru. They was like, oh, my, she is Efuru.
That makes sense.
Right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I'm playing around.
Well, you put it out there, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but I
Yeah.
put it out there. And that stuck with them more than anything because I was like, oh, no, I'm, like, Miss Growing Guru. But then thinking about it again, it's like, dang, I am Efuru the Guru. What am I an expert in? I'm an expert in growth. And you know what? We can all be experts in our own lives. And I truly believe that. And so it's just like, how am I going to tell somebody else they could be an expert in their life? And then I don't believe that I'm an expert in my life.
That's a great point.
Make it make sense. So I'm a big person in making it make sense. And so, like when it comes to self-awareness and you look at hate all around the world in any form, whether that's racism, whether it's what do they call it, misogyny, whatever it is,
Different
right?
forms, yeah, right.
Right. It all comes from a lack of self-awareness and acceptance. Because if a person is racist, right, they're like, ugh, ew, black people, ew, Muslims, whatever, da-da-da-da, right? And it's just like, oh, I don't like Muslims, and then you ask them why they don't like Muslims, or you ask them why they don't like black people. They're lazy. What do you do in your day? What do you do in your day, and what do you wish you did in your day? Well, I've always had the dream of getting up and doing this, that. So you're mad that you're lazy and you're taking it on somebody else. You're projecting. And that's what I'm learning, like, getting older. It's just like a lot of this hate is projection. Like, your hate has nothing to do with me being black, but everything to do with you not liking who you're looking at in the mirror. And so when I say, like, shifting our focus from product to person, because the people who make what it is that I'm speaking into, what it is that I drink, the cup that I'm drinking out of, that's way more important than the cup itself. Because if the person who made this cup, like we've seen in recent cancel culture, people who make products and this, that, and the third, if they find out that person is a sexist or this, that, and the third, they don't want to buy that product no more. So this is how we know that the person is way far more important than the product. And so it's just like self-awareness is everything. You cannot accept nobody else if you do not accept yourself. And that's the bottom line, period.
Yeah, there's a lot of what she just said. I will go back to so self-awareness. I think that's a big point, and we focus a lot on strengths, but also knowing, like, what are your dark spots, your weaknesses. What it, like, the hate, a lot of times the opposite is fear. Like, you fear something, and so, like, realizing that's that. The other thing, so you just talking about relation, and that's what strikes me a lot, because even I didn't know about Shivani's brother, but looking at you both on paper, you're like, what do Efuru and Shivani have in common? And then, like, just in that conversation, y'all connected over your brother, over pediatrician. I mean, that, and I think that's how we get past a lot of this stuff, right? Because at the end of the day, we can add all these titles, like, don't be, whatever, pick your diversity inclusion title of the day, don't be this, be that, but really it's just sort of a relationship. And so we have this, we kind of have a side bet going on who's going to get emotional first on this podcast, who's going to drop that first tear. And I got to say, I'm struggling today, because when I
see it in you, Brandon.
Yeah. I've been trying to look away from it.
He's looking over. No, he was cutting an onion earlier, I think.
I am struggling today.
Boy, it's misty.
I'd say part of what it is, because when I see you, I see my daughter, right? Like, and that's what gets to me. And I hope that she becomes the woman that you are. But I'm not going to let that tear drop. It's not going to drop.
I will.
No.
Yeah.
You were talking about the guru, for the guru, and about self-awareness and being an expert. I think the powerful thing that when you're speaking, it's not because you're speaking somebody else's truth, right? You are so self-aware and are living it and drawing from that to speak truth and to be the guru. It's not, I read it in a book somewhere,
right,
and I'm just going to preach it to you. You're living it. You're living it, and that makes you the guru.
Thank you. That's so important. And, like, just going back to what Brandon just said and what John mentioned earlier, it's like, literally, it's so much importance in seeing yourself in someone else, or seeing a form of love in someone else, regardless of what that is. Because honestly, going back to that quote, I really believe love can cure everything. Because honestly, you know what? I believe that our human nature is love, but the further we stray away from that, the harder it is to find our way back. And everything is a process, and it's just like, the world has many things wrong with it, yeah, sure. But there's so many things that's right about it. And if we connect, like you said, on that relation, on that love, you never know what you might find out about someone, how you might connect with them, and then what y'all can create together. And that's the goal. The goal is to create a better reality, because like I said, get back down to reality, be practical. What is practicality? Okay, practicality looks different to everyone. You ask Elon Musk what practicality is, and it's gonna look far different from the accountant that's
Humans
doing your
living on
taxes.
Mars.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, oh, that's
Exactly.
practical.
Yeah.
Send them to Mars real quick. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that's
that's true.
everything. Like, we create our own reality, and that's why I said getting people to focus back to themselves, because if you focusing on yourself helps us. Like you said, I'm drawing from my living experiences to help other people. There's no way that I could ever read something in a book and come and preach that to you and it's going to have a lasting effect. No, because I don't believe what I'm saying.
Yeah. And you recognize the struggle that the other person is going through as well. because
Exactly.
You've been there.
Right.
And having that empathy.
And I feel like even the word, right, like your IG, misgrowing guru. So, sometimes guru might have the connotation that you've made it and there's an endpoint. But I feel like the way you've positioned what I think honors who you are is that growth never stops. And you are the guru of like growing. But really that's not there is like in the Buddhist culture, there's a quote from the Buddha that says, "Can you and I, with all our knowledge, maintain a beginner's mindset?" And it's one of my favorite quotes because to me, that's what you personify is you're not walking in. You and I have talked about, all of us have talked about this, as we have roots in our country around racism, even deeper than racism is caste and hierarchy, right? And that I am above or better than you, and I'm above because of age, socioeconomic, all this stuff, which you have, if anyone listening and has a pulse, you have blown up today, right? And have over and over. And if we have more room for that, right? If we have, I think this idea that of loving each other in relationships is the capacity to grow, is the, Brian Stevenson, we've talked a lot. I think when we talked in relatability, he said 4 things that you've really hit on today. The first one is, we got to get proximate to each other, right? We got to be close like we are now, relating. Hey, my brother also went through something similar. And then especially, I'll say for me being a white male, like remain uncomfortable, right? But that's exciting because growth is on the other side of being uncomfortable. Growth's on the other side of pain. And then when we do that, we do the third thing he says, we change the narrative. We're doing it right here. You're doing that right here. Right? Like we can't put any label on you. Like we got to even take the 17-year-old thing off. You are a Efuru Cole Brewer, right? And then the last thing is what you have just running in your veins is hope, right? And God, we need hope so much right now, right? We need more of that.
I agree.
And this has just been incredible talking to you. And we probably got to have a part 2. We've already decided as a group, we want you to come back and interview us.
Yes.
That's right. That's right.
And we just keep getting literally getting out the
Little
way.
nuggets of Efuru.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We're just having you just solo. Let you talk.
All right, we'll just get out of here. But where can people, where can they find you? And I know we're working on, I'm going to make a personal plea to anybody listening that you're building a business, so let's hear about that. But let's create some opportunities, right? You're going to Entrepreneur, you're going to Spain. So tell us where they can find you, how they could work with you, and then we want to give you the last minute from there.
Well, before I get to that, I would like to say very quickly that was amazing to see. Like, I know you as John Davis, but ultimately, once again, we are in America, and you are a white man in America. And just to hear you come to that solution and not like victimize yourself, and it's just like, oh my God, like be uncomfortable because on the other side of that uncomfortability is growth. It's like, well, I wish, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wish that's how a lot of people thought, and it's just like you just like living in your truth and not feeling bad for who you are. And that's the biggest thing when like any conversation comes to like race and differences and equality and equity and this, that, and third. A lot of the times the oppressor, the person who didn't know that they were an oppressor, but it's like now coming to, they feel attacked. And it's like you've come to a point where it's like, I really don't feel attacked. I really don't feel like, I don't feel like this is a disadvantage. I feel like I'm in this position for a reason. And like you said, I am a catalyst, and I'm making space for those whom previously people in my same position have used to suppress. So it's just like, that's amazing.
You're preaching today. Yeah, like I said, the guilt doesn't help anything. You don't need to feel guilty. Actually, I appreciate your privilege. 'Cause you can help open doors that maybe
Yes,
some of
you're
us
making
can't.
room.
So
Thank
use
you.
it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
where you can reach me? Well, I'm on Instagram and I'm miss.growingguru. My email is missgrowingguru and at gmail.com. And a few things that I'm getting into is just, I do podcasting as well, just because I love talking to people. And so I'm doing that, but I'm also standing in my truth of being a student consultant and helping people understand the student's perspective and how to implement that into their life and all. And so, I'm really just at a growing point, a big pivot in my life because I am turning 18 on Saturday. Just to
Oh,
mention.
happy
Yes. Yes, and that means a lot. Like turning 18 is a lot, especially in this society. Like, oh my God, I'm 18. So yeah, it's really just understanding where I'm at and where I want to go. And so like for furthermore, for the future, I'm just getting into public speaking even more, and like I said, standing in my truth of being a student consultant and creating those spaces where other students might not be able to get into, like you said, using my privilege
Use your privilege.
to
Whatever
help
you
other
have, it
people.
doesn't matter. Yeah.
Exactly, whatever privilege I have, and recognizing that I have that privilege, and just like I said, creating that space is everything. And I'm really so proud of myself, and I'm so proud of everyone around me for creating the person that's sitting here right now today.
I'll tell you what, we people signing up there are a lot of keynotes that need to have your voice. And this idea, right, of making room, and even when you commented earlier, it occurred to me that on the other side of growth is love, right? And so when we value love, that's part of the process to get there. So want to give you the last minute.
Okay, yeah.
Whatever you've heard today, making room, this idea of a catalyst, what are you left with? What do you want people to know?
Guys, I
today?
get to talk.
I know this is hard.
You might not be able to find the words.
But on the other side of growth is love. And yeah, that's actually a lot to process. This is actually like a really good conversation, and just talking about that, and just the love and the catalyst of everything, and the connecting and the relationship and creating space. It's just my takeaways is that we just this is basically a demo. Everyone listening, this is a demo of what it is we're talking about. Like, we're talking about it, but we're also doing it all at the same time. And I find that really powerful in this room, because as I just my brain, like I said, works 300 miles per hour, and watching us talk about it, but then also do it. So it's almost like a third person, first person point of view all at one time. It's just like, we're a living example that you can do it too. And that wherever you're at in life, there's so many different, it's just 4 of us, but it's so many different life experiences sitting right here at this table. It's no way that whoever you are listening to this, you do not believe that you can get up. And I believe that you can get up and do whatever you need to do to be your best self, because that's the goal at the end of the day. It's not to be better than anyone else. It's not to take anyone else down. It's not to be recognized by anybody else. And that's very important, because I was listening to this guy. He's on YouTube, and he's called Hindsight. And he said bamboo growth is important. Bamboo growth meaning you don't see the bamboo go from a seed to a whole bamboo tree, but you know it did it. You know it happened. So don't even focus on what it is someone else sees in you, because it's not important. What you see in you is what's important. And knowing that you love yourself, and that you accept yourself, and that you will work to love yourself and accept yourself. And I use work to because I never want to use the word try again. That it doesn't exist. That's why it doesn't translate to any other language. It does. You don't try. You either do it or you don't. And that's what we call working to something. You don't try. You work to whatever it is you're trying to work to. And honestly, today and my takeaways is just that, it's possible. It's possible. I'm doing it. Everyone next to me is doing it. Everyone in front of me is doing it. It's possible. And you have to believe in you first. I could tell you all day that you are worth it and that you can do it, but until you get up and you look in the mirror, or you look down at your hands, your skin, and say, dang, I really can do it, it won't happen.
Amazing.
Wow.
Well,
Mic
guys,
drop. Mic drop.
thank you all for listening. Thank you for making room with us. And until next time, what a special interview today.
Until next time.
Thank you
much
so
And then I get
much.
to
Joining us,
interview
Efuru.
y'all.
That's right. You'll be back.
We invite you to continue making room with us. You'll find this episode and all of our exciting and meaningful conversations on Apple, Spotify, or really anywhere you choose to listen to podcasts.
Join the Making Room movement and get more info at makingroomwithus.com or follow us on Instagram at Making Room With Us.
Thank you for showing up for us and each other. Until next time.
You are wonderful and full of truth, just as you are. You are wonderful, so full of truth, just as you are. You are wonderful, so full of truth, just as you are, just as you are. You're welcome here, just as you are.